Is 20 seconds. 15 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Okay. Rep your city. Let me see the mic. Rep your city. Give me the mic. Rep your city. I got you. Rep your city. I'm gonna tell you about mine. Rep your city.
It's time for us to go live, so rep your city. I really would appreciate if y'all roll with me. Feeling this music cause it makes me wanna step. And if you don't want to, then you lying to yourself. Cause every time we party, we gon' have fun. I don't know about you, but I'ma rep where I'm from.
Rep your city. Okay. Rep your city. Let me see the mic. Rep your city. Give me the mic. Rep your city.
Welcome to the RYC Live Show this evening. My name is Artistic and I'm your host for tonight. And this is RYC Live Rep Your City Fresh Friday. And so welcome back to another fresh episode. We do this each and every Friday night at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. And we broadcast from the base here in Chicago, but yet we circulate around the globe. So tonight we have, as scheduled, a very interesting segment, and we have our backstage guests in the backstage area, and we'll bring them out shortly. But before we do, we'd like to encourage everyone to please share this broadcast, share, and share it to a family member, to a crewmate, or to anyone that you think that might be interested in learning about some hip hop breaking history that we're going to discuss tonight, specifically in Chicago. And we're going to have a wider range discussion around the world. Breaking has now definitely, well, it actually has been going, it has went internationally many years ago. And so tonight we're going to have a great, cool discussion about it all. So keep it locked and loaded. If you like this programming that you are continually getting each and every Friday, please show us some love. Hit that subscribe button. Go to our YouTube channel and hit subscribe, right, to RYC Live. Our subscription will provide what you need when you need it. Okay. If you'd like to be a guest on a future show, please send us an email to ryclive@yahoo.com. That's ryclive@yahoo.com. And someone from the team will be more than happy to get back to you and discuss a future date with you for a future show. All right. So with that being said, I would like to introduce my homegirl, B-Girl Syren, who is definitely in the backstage area. And I've been looking forward to having her come on the show. She's going to talk about her contributions in this game. And, I already know this is going to be very interesting, and so for anyone that know her, you're going to get a chance to enjoy whatever she shares tonight. And anyone that don't know her, you're going to learn about her tonight. Okay. And we're going to also have a special guest appearance by another B-boy, a B-boy who is actually from New York, right? Goes by the name of B-boy Leno Linsky. He's going to be coming on shortly in the segment, and we're going to talk about his contributions as well a little bit and just add to the story. So without further ado, let's introduce our homegirl, B-Girl Syren. There she is. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Thank you. No, I'm so honored. Thank you.
Yeah. It's been a long time in coming, and I'm so glad that we finally have made this happen. It's an honor and a privilege for me to have you on the show, for you to be able to tell your story and share it with the world. And, I think that's important because all of us have a story to tell. And I think at this point in our lives, we need to take the time out to talk about it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So with that being said, let's go back to the beginning because off the record, I know you told me that you're originally from where again?
So I'm originally from New Jersey. My family's from Trinidad and Tobago. So they immigrated to New Jersey. And then I moved when I was young to Chicago area.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Cool. So, okay. So, tell me a little bit about yourself as a youngster coming up in Chicago. What were
Oh,
some things you like to do?
oh my goodness. So I grew up in kind of like I feel like, when it came to my dad, a very strict family. I think you'll hear that a lot from West Indians, that come from, Jamaica or Trinidad to the States, right? So it's about the books, studying, being very studious. Um, I think I was naturally creative. So I used to draw actually. So that's what I used to do a lot. So would enter into shows to do that, and then I was also a natural dancer. I used to love to dance and love the arts, but my dad was an engineer, electronic engineer, and so processes and in the weekend studying at the kitchen table was 100% like my lifestyle. Like when I see some of the memes on Instagram and TikTok about growing up in a Caribbean household, that was definitely a part of my life for sure.
Wow. Wow. Okay. So, what neighborhood in Chicago were you from?
Oh yeah, so my dad, he lived out in Justice.
Okay.
And then I lived in Gurnee. So I grew up in the burbs and then I moved to the city like in my teenage years. So
Okay. So, Gurney, you out there by where Great America was at, right?
that was my backyard.
Wow.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Wow. So, did you actually go out there to the park when
Of
you were living?
course, yeah.
Okay.
Oh
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. I
Okay.
mean, I'm still friends with the people that I mean, from preschool. Like I still had the same preschool friends, and so yeah, it was
Cool.
a great upbringing.
Okay. So,
Yeah,
when did you like? What time period, year, if you can, would you say when you moved to Chicago?
that was 96, 94,
Ah, gotcha.
94. Yeah,
94. Okay.
yeah.
Okay. All right. And did you
No, no,
go
it was 96. It was 96. It was 96.
96? Okay. What
Yeah.
high school did you go to?
So I went to Waukegan High School.
Okay. Okay.
Yep. So I moved after high school. So I moved. It had to be 96. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So by the time when you came here, you're done with school.
Yeah. And then I went
Okay.
to college. I went to Columbia College, Chicago.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right. Cool. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
I'm a Columbia alum.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Columbia is considered, the iconic hip hop school, college school in Chicago.
Fact. Fact. Yeah, this is where all the artsy kids went. All
Yeah.
the artsy kids went to Columbia or like what was that, the other school that was down the street from Columbia Art School, but it was like those two were kind of like the choices, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's really cool. I mean, I didn't go to Columbia, but I knew so many people that did go,
Yeah,
and that, like you say, it was an artsy place, so a lot of artists, a
sure.
lot of people that had a background in art hung out there. Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. Okay, cool. So that's what, and this all makes sense. Like there's a whole lineage, and I just know that when I remember seeing you, which definitely was after you came here, and I was
hmm
just like, wow, it's just so refreshing to see other people get into the movement. And
mm.
so now let me ask you, were you dancing prior to coming to Chicago, or is that where your dance breaking
Oh,
did
just you mean
start?
breaking?
Yeah,
Oh no, breaking
yeah.
started in Chicago for sure. Like I met this guy named Phil.
Mhm.
So Phil was this. I mean, he was very popular, still is very popular, creative in all ways. He was amazing artist, like could draw, dance, produce beats, like do like camera. He did film, like he did a lot of things. So he's the one who actually helped me to learn how to break it, per se. But let me just take it back. Like I was always in the scene. Like in high school, I used to intern with Kevin Beecham at WNU.
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah,
Right. So I
Kevin.
used to go up to them. So my parents did not know any of this. Like I used to lie and say I was going to like a study group. Like
Uh-huh.
not, my parents were like had no clue that I was like actually dipping out, going to Alcatraz or going to like, I would just spend, I was like, oh, I'm gonna spend the night, because I had a really studious friend that was like always getting A's. And I was like, I'm gonna spend the night at her house. We're gonna study together. They're like, okay. Meanwhile, me and her were like because her mom was like very revolutionary. Like she was very much about like, Fela, and she had like, this Afrocentric kind of vibe about her. And so we would just go over there, and everybody who was hip hop would like have the record. She had a record player. She had all that stuff. So we used to go over there and hang out and kind of learn about music and kind of culture from her, as well as, kind of like just the people around her. We used to go to Alcatraz. I used to write all the, help Kevin like put together, the show for the night. So like, I mean, I was looking at some old like the playlist, right?
Yes,
We
yes.
set up our playlist, right?
Yes.
Like Eminem, we used to spell Eminem M-and-M because we didn't know.
Yeah.
Back in the day, you would just listen. You would be like, "Yo, my name is Eminem" on the freestyle. So we was like, "Oh, Eminem," but we didn't realize. So like that's how that like we didn't have the internet like this, like where we're you're able to have the name and everything. We were just by ear.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. And a lot of playlists back in the days were handwritten.
Yeah.
Before they got typed up. So,
yeah. I still have them like at my mom's house. So this is like recent. I was just recently going through stuff at my mom's house. So I was like, I got to tell Kev too. So.
Oh, that's interesting because yes, Kevin, he did do the show at WNUR. And so,
Time travel.
Yeah, the time travel show. And he's definitely a scholar of hip hop. That's for sure. Shout out to Kevin Beecham.
For sure. He did Caught in the Middle magazine with Common on the cover. You know what I mean? Like this is before like Chicago wasn't like New York where like, hip hop was a part of the culture. Like Chicago, like it was almost like you were a part of this very, very, very small subculture, right?
Yes,
so like, going to the bop shop, going to Alcatraz, going to, some of these events where like, Rubber Room and all those guys were performing. Like you had to be a part of like something to even know where those parties were. Like you had to understand where to pick up the flyers because the flyers were all copied and hand drawn. You had to know somebody to even get into any of those jams, to even know where they were. So it was like a whole different, that was a different time.
Now, let me ask you, you mentioned one of the guys early on that introduced you to breaking.
Phil.
Was a guy named Phil.
Yeah.
Did his last name happen to be Gates?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
So Phil and I also like we were really, really cool. Like, we both were into martial arts as well. So like I grew up learning karate, but he introduced me to wushu. So I used to practice wushu with Phil because he introduced me to like Jet Li. So then I got into wushu, but I mean, I was practicing martial arts way before. I mean, since I was a young kid until, then when I met him, it was like a whole nother, I was like, oh my goodness, like this Jet Li dude is crazy. Right. So yeah.
Yeah. Now you also have a gymnastics background too, right?
I went to gymnastics, like whatever, like a regular kid. I liked it. I was not in love with gymnastics.
Okay.
I was more of like a martial arts girl, and I loved to dance. So
okay. Well, but that also kind of helped, in terms of style in dancing, with being able to be flexible and agility, because I think like some people that have that kind of background, whether it be gymnastics, martial arts, or even ballet, can do them good when they incorporate that training into breaking,
Yeah, I was very weak when I started breaking. Like, I was so thin. I was probably like a buck at the most, wet, right out of the shower.
Okay.
So like I really had to train. I really like when I would watch TV, I would watch TV in a freeze, you know what I mean? So I could and then I'll switch to the other side, that's because I needed to gain the muscle memory.
Yeah.
Strength, so I would, I mean, it was just, that's how I practiced. But I mean, I was more flexible and agile than I was strong.
Okay.
So I used to leverage that in the beginning, like my agility, but you have to gain the strength in order to be good in this.
For sure. Yeah, no doubt. I mean, and you're going to get that the more you do it.
I drink a lot of Ensure.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Look, I as I'm talking to you, I'm also having a flashback because I remember how we were involved in martial arts too. Like that was also a direct connection to hip hop. A lot of people in hip hop had some degree of connection to martial arts, because I mean, it was appealing, and they kind of went hand in hand because martial arts is also about styles and movement and things of that nature. And so it's very much like hip hop, right? And there's a whole culture to that, right? And so, that was always appealing to us. And, and so sometimes even some of the B-boys back in the 80s used to wear the black and white kung fu jackets.
Nice.
You know, and would rock that at a battle. You know what I'm saying? It was just,
Oh.
you know, it was just a cool fashion statement as well.
Nice.
So so Phil, yes, I do know Phil. Shout out to Phil. You know
Yes,
what I'm saying?
definitely. Sure. Now Phil has always been super. He's always been him, you know, like he was just always him. You know, when I met him, he had locks and he had like, you know, then he used to wear these like gold fangs and stuff like that. And he, you know what I mean? And then, you know, I mean, really, and then like going into, you know, rocking with like Kev, and I'm trying to get this in chronological order, but I'm not. Going to like Alcatraz, you know, then it was like Reg. When I saw Reg, I was like, so Reginald, like, I was so taken back by him because I think, you know, as we might get into later, you know, around the, you know, presentation of self as a black woman, as an African American living in Chicago in the Midwest, like I was very much about being polished, right? Because I wanted, you know, there was a way that to present myself to be respected, right? And so when I saw Reg in this like amazing low fits and like his locks and his, you know, the way that he presented, it was so professional yet still culture, like still style yet still him. It was like this like all of those things morphed together. It was something I'd never seen before in Chicago. Like when I'm in New York, it was a different way of life. Like you can just, you know, people are themselves on their face in New York and it's accepted and people accept people the way they are. In the Midwest, it wasn't so at that point, you know what I mean? And so when I saw him and I saw the whole Dem Dare crew, I was like, it opened me up. It opened up my heart. And it made me want to explore a different level of me that I knew existed inside of me that maybe I was too scared to bring out, but it made me like chip away at what was supposed to be appropriate for a young girl at that time. And so it like helped me like, you know, taking those steps to become a deeper self.
Okay. So let's just go back for the record. You said 96
was when I started breaking.
Gotcha.
But I was already in the culture, right? So I was in high school. I was working with WNUR. So that was like 92, 93 maybe.
Okay.
92, 93, 94, 95.
Okay.
Years, you know what I'm saying? Like, so I was already kind of like in the scene there.
So in regard to connecting with the culture initially, was that through Kevin Beecham?
Connecting with the culture initially, I don't think so, because the only reason I met Kevin Beecham is because I was already a part of the culture, right?
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. So what can you, because like I know some people have pinpoints when they got into it because of a certain something happened or a commercial on TV or a magazine or something like that. What was it like for you? What was that initial contact?
So I can tell you, like my family's from Trinidad, as I mentioned. My cousins used to be on a show. So I used to spend my summers in Trinidad. I used to spend my summers in Trinidad, partially in Brooklyn, and then all the holidays in Brooklyn. So right, but summer was when I would go spend the entire summer with my family in Trinidad. So my cousin was a dancer, and he used to be on the show that was kind of like a Soul Train of Trinidad, and it was like they kind of mimic the shows that would happen in the US. So they had their own Soul Train, and he was one of the dancers on their Trinidad Soul Train. So that's how I got into it. And, you know, he was playing Slick Rick. Like Slick Rick was my first passion point. I was like, oh my gosh, what is this? What's going on? Like I was mind blown by the lyrics. Like the way that he was able to create a story with these lyrics was like incredible to me, you know?
Right.
And so that's how I got into it.
Okay. So God,
I don't even know what year that was. I was a little tyke.
Okay.
I was a little tyke. I used to follow my cousins. My cousins are much older than me.
Okay.
You know, so they used to have to babysit me. So they were all annoyed, you know.
Okay. So you had family in Brooklyn?
In Brooklyn and Trinidad. So
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, but I mean, like in regard to when, you know,
that was in Trinidad.
Right. But I'm saying like in regard to New York, your family was in Brooklyn.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, no, I did not know that. I did not know that.
Nostrand Avenue in Pacific.
That's really cool. So you would obviously go back, like you say, from time to time and stay with family in Brooklyn. So I think that's another kind of cool thing that some of us may have experienced more than others is that we might have had family in New York, or we might have had a relative that went to New York. You know what I'm saying? And then that's how we ended up connecting early on, right? And so so that's kind of cool. Like me personally, I didn't have any family connected to New York as I was coming up, so I had always yearned to go to New York as a youngster, but I didn't have any family or know anybody at the time personally directly in New York at that time. So by the time I went, I was an adult. But I used to always look and and wonder one day will I ever make it there, right?
New York is still fantasy. I love New York. Like,
yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about as you began to realize this is something that you wanted to do and wanted to be a part of, and you kind of like, okay, let me carve out my space. How did that look like? What did that look like for you, especially being a woman? What were some of the challenges that you faced?
So I'm going to tell you, so like, I feel like I'm shouting. So I'm sorry if I feel like I'm just trying to make sure that I'm being heard, but I feel like so I'm going to try to back it up a little bit with my tone and voice.
Okay.
But I'll tell you, I think it was a props award. There used to be a jam, I think it was a props award. I can't remember the name of it, but basically they would have all the elements, right? And it was like these brothers out of Hyde Park, I think, that used to do this event. I don't even remember their names.
Okay.
But what I do remember is me asking to help produce the events, because the events would never, ever actually be fulfilled. Like they would have all the elements, but nothing, because the MC battle would go for so long, they would never be able to get to the other parts of the culture, right? So I was like, yo, I can help organize and I'll help blah, blah, blah. And they diss me. Right.
Okay.
All right. I was like, I'll even carry records and I'll help, I'm here. This was back in the day when people used to carry the crates out of the trunk and then carry them into the jam. Right. So I was like, I'll do whatever I can do to learn and be a part of this. They totally dissed me. So then that's how I got into doing events, because I was like, bet. So you don't think that I can do or I'm a full-on participant, right, in this culture. So I did it by myself. And so that's how I started doing the event side of it,
Wow.
But as far as from, so whatever those guys named, those busters, sucks for them, can't even remember their names. But like before, getting into phase 2 was like obviously a great experience. Phil brought me into that fold, but we were already, I knew Phil from practicing at the promontory point, right? So we used to go up to the point. You from Chicago and you from that era, that's where we went to go practice. That's where everybody went to go practice, and so it was, and I used to learn how to crab walk. Like that was probably like my first move, was learning how to crab walk. But then when I went into phase 2, they actually, I had to learn how to practice differently, right? I had to start over.
Okay.
So I wasn't able to learn how to do windmills or any of that stuff until way later. They're like, no. I was like, oh, I want to come in. I want to do windmills. Look at my crab walks. They're like, no. So I had to start from scratch. I'm practicing, learning how to do 6-step both ways, learning how to do freezes. But this, they're over there doing all sorts of stuff in practice. And I'm over here in a baby freeze. I was all upset. I was like, why can't I practice other things? So, but they taught, I think that their method of practice, which is, one of the reasons why, I think I wanted to be a part of their crew, is because I appreciated the rigor to get to where you needed to be. And I appreciated, because it's not about practice, right? Perfect practice makes practice, not just practicing. You have to practice perfectly in order to do well. You understand what I'm saying? So being able to have that rigor and understanding how to practice is, I think how I was able to achieve the goals that I was as a dancer.
Okay, let's send a shout out to Phase 2 Worldwide Crew. This is their logo here. You know what I'm saying? Established 1982 Crosstown Crew.
All right now.
So yeah, shout out to, and I think that's really an honor to have been a member of that crew, just because of the longevity of the crew and the achievements that the crew has made. And I want to get into that before we get into. We're going to take a commercial break, and then when we come back, we'll get into our other special guests that we have. But let's talk a little bit about as you continue to develop as a dancer. And one of my fondest memories outside of some of the events that took place here in Chicago, is when we went to the Pro-Am in '98. And I wanted to share this picture for those that have not seen it, because this made me so emotional that weekend, because first of all, I didn't know what to expect. That was my first time to the Pro-Am, and I had been corresponding with B-Boy Speedy Legs and Zulu Gremlin. And, when I finally got out there, I just had a ball. But to also see people from home there representing, and then not only to represent, but to also bring home the trophy, like that battle, Wicked just, that whole, and I think it was one of those periods of time where it was almost like, because there was kind of a little love-hate relationship between New York and Chicago. And, and I always kind of felt that, and others felt that. But when we went to Miami, which was a whole different space, it was kind of like, okay, it's kind of like you're forced to kind of just give credit when credit is due. And now you got, in your own hometown, you got some people that's kind of shining the light, so to speak. And to know that these were, people from Chicago, that was just, that picture just, this capitalized the moment for me. And you were a part of that. Can you talk about that just a little bit, from your experience?
Wow, that was so long ago. I'm gonna do my best. That was so long ago. I mean, Pro-Am was magical space. I think met a lot of people. It was a melting pot of people from around the world. I mean, I met half of the people that I knew in the scene at Pro-Am. I mean, in 96, 97, or 97, I think that was 97, 98 or whatever, Pro-Am, in 99. I don't know which one.
Yeah, 98.
98. Okay, 98 Pro-Am. Oh man, it was awesome. It was amazing, right? The energy was great. The skill level was great. People were practicing. There were, a lot of girls too. Like there was Jules, there was Beta, that were there. There was, some really dope. It was just a dope, the vibe. Like I always feel like Miami's my second home just because of Pro-Am, because of the way that it made me feel at home, and it made me feel like, a part of something bigger. And I was able to see, you're able to see people's different styles. I think a lot of bonds were formed at Pro-Am for sure. So I can't, it's like, and all the years are blending in for me, right? At this point, 97, 98, 99. But it was a great time.
Now here's another question I also would like to know. It just kind of came up in my head, but were you the only woman that was a part of Phase 2 during that?
No, there's a girl out of Canada who was a part. I mean, she wasn't there for that long. I can't remember her name either. But she was there, and I think there was some girl prior to me and prior to her. And then, but for my stench, I was the only girls for the most part. I mean, the girl from Canada, I can't remember her name, but she was, she would come in and out every now and then, but I was the only girl in Phase 2 for the most part. But for me, it wasn't even about, and I think what Phase 2 was preaching at the time is that it wasn't about me being a girl, it was about me being a dope breaker, right?
For sure.
So that's how I was trained. Like I was not trained to go out and beat, these are my girls, like Lady Champ. Like I wasn't trained oh, you're gonna beat Lady Champ, or you're gonna beat this girl, and whatever the girls' names were out of Brickheads. And I'm sorry, I'm getting older, I can't remember everybody's name. The girls out of Brickheads, it wasn't like, oh, go beat the girls. They're like, no, you need to go beat Walker, or you need to go beat, what I'm saying? The best in the crew. So it was never about me being like the girl. You know what I'm saying?
No, I 100% agree, because hip hop is based on skill. And I always preach to people, it's not about the skin color, and it's definitely not about the gender. It's about the skill. And and it just goes, the bottom line is, can you do what's required of you from the culture? So at the end of the day, that's what really matters. So now here's another picture that I shot of you, and I wanted to know, because I'm still kind of researching this. This was back when I shot photos with a 35 millimeter, and I don't quite remember, and I'm hoping that you can help me. But this is a photo that I shot of you at an event.
Oh, wow.
So I'm not sure. Now, do you remember this spot we used to go to up in Skokie called the Break Open?
The break open. Wow. Whoa.
So I'm not sure if this was that or if this was a different event, but I know that if I'm not mistaken, I want to say this was a practice thing. This
Yeah, that looks like a practice jam.
yeah. But I caught this shot of you, and so we're gonna have to track down the date on this one because I want to say it had to definitely be between like 96 or 97.
Yeah.
Somewhere up in there, maybe even 98. I'm not really sure, but yeah.
It's so funny. No, that's it's interesting. So going back to your question about being my gender in this space, I think one of the hardest things for me was to hold on to my feminism part of myself, as well as being in this masculine culture, but then also operating outside of the b-boy world. You know what I mean? It's like I think that trying to balance all three of those major things was really difficult. It was very, very, and also, if I was going to add in a fourth complexity, my race, right? And so these are the things that kind of, it was very tough. It was very tough because I think I was going into the age where I wanted to go into doing marketing and doing more, some of the other work. And it was hard. Like, it was not an acceptable thing to say, I'm a breaker and going into work.
Okay. All right, let's take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we'll pick up where we left off, and then we're going to have our other special guests in the backstage area.
All right,
come in with us. So
okay.
You're watching the RYC Live Show, and we will be right back.
Cool.
Wanna fight once more, my style. Fight me. We came here to battle.
Bruce Lee in the mix, right here, RYC Live. Tell me, I did not just beat him.
You're pretty good.
Welcome back to the RYC Live Show. I am your host for tonight. My name is Artistic, and we have B-Girl Syren joining us here tonight. And so we have B-Boy Linsky in the backstage area, and we're going to bring him out very shortly. But before I do, I also wanted you to talk a little bit about this event that we didn't get a chance to actually touch on just yet. But I think this is important. So the release 2000, right? And you mentioned earlier that you got into doing events because you were trying to help assist with someone else's event, and they didn't really allow you to. So, talk a little bit about how this came to be for you.
Yeah. No, this is probably, I think, probably my second or third event that I produced.
Okay.
And so like just kind of taking the journey back to producing events. I think it was Skill Matrix, which I did at a roller rink, which was one of my first events that I produced, and then I moved to this one. This one was a 4-week event throughout the month of January, and it was called Release 2000. And so it was a b-boy battle, a DJ battle, and an MC battle, and then the finals were held at the end of the month. And so we had they were able to understand and know who they were going to battle, or who they were going up against at the finals. And the finals were jam packed. I mean, it was probably like 1,400 people I think it was the Orbit, if I'm not mistaken. That says Northeastern. It was not in Northeastern. It was
okay.
It was at the Orbit. It was at Orbit. So we probably had to change event. It was really, trying to find venues back in the day was really tough. And so I think we changed it over to the Orbit. How I got that information out to the people, who knows? Because this was pre-internet. So I don't know how people knew, but it was packed, and we had rhyme sayers there. So I think people, think back in the day, there were boards on the internet. So there used to be b-board boards, no graphics. It was just you typed. And,
yeah. I remember that.
And then I think people the email was just now coming into play. And so I think that's how we kind of got the word out, because there wasn't, I don't think at that time there was MySpace or anything like that. Or at least we weren't on it per se.
Right.
At extent. So yeah, no, that was a huge event. It was, I used to, that flyer I had to go to, I used to work at as an admin during the day, after school. And so I would copy it at my job, slice them up, and then I would drive to all the record stores and drop off the flyers, to be done. That one happened to be done by Sneaks, but there was a brother named Fats who used to do most of my flyers, who was super dope. He passed away earlier this year. So that was touching for my heart. He's a really good friend, and he did a lot for me. And so I was really, sad that he passed away. But with the flyers and the creatives that he did, they were way out. I wish he was able to do that one, but I think he had moved by that time, so, but it was a super dope event. And it was just I did all that stuff by myself, by the way. I did all of the, putting all the things together, getting the sponsors, connecting with the artists, bringing the artists out, putting up in hotels. All that stuff, all the logistics, everything was run through me.
Wow.
And I did it by myself. Yeah.
That's pretty amazing.
Thank you.
Pretty amazing.
Thank you. We're actually gonna have a little private event, soon to kind of showcase some of the footage from that event, because I never put out the footage out from that event.
Oh wow. Yeah. As a matter of fact, were you also a part of that other battle that was taking place I think it was entitled Chicago versus Milwaukee?
I don't think so. No.
Okay. This is a picture that I shot, and I believe this was from that event, because if you look at here, this is members of Phase 2.
Oh, that was a Chicago Tribe event. I probably wasn't there. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, this was, if you look at it, it was a Chicago versus Milwaukee. So and you could see the plaques there.
Yeah, but it was by Chicago Tribe though. On the top it says Chicago Tribe. Check in Chicago Tribe. So yeah, I probably didn't attend that event. Yeah.
Okay. All right, so it looks like we're ready to go ahead and chop it up with our homeboy Linsky in the background. Let's bring him on in, B-Boy Linsky. Let's see. There he is.
What up?
He back there getting all scooped up and looking all fresh.
I love it.
Yeah. Okay. So let's see.
What's up?
Welcome to the show, man. We're glad to have you to be a part of the segment here tonight on the RYC Live Show.
Oh, Lino, you're frozen.
Okay, it might be a little.
Thank
connection.
you for having me.
Yes.
So what's going on?
Well, we're
hold on.
Okay. And I think this is going to be a great conversation because again, we can could have a wide range of conversation when it comes to breaking, especially now that we have all these years behind us in it, and with it being part of the Olympics that just took place. It's the talk of hot topics now.
Yeah, definitely. And before we start getting into why I really wanted Lino to come on as a special guest, I wanted to just really give a quick shout out to some of the b-boys that were very supportive of me. And there was Austin, there was a lot of the b-boys out of the Waukegan crews. There was Jay Boogie has been an absolute supporter of me, from Self X, and there's been Kamal and some of these other b-boys that have really been supportive of the work that I've put together, and they were there to see the hard work that I put in. And so I just want to give a shout out to all those people who were really supportive of me, because there was a time that I left Phase 2 and I was on my own. I was doing it on my own, and I still I was doing all the events anyway, but regardless, like, people, it didn't matter that I wasn't a part of Phase 2. Like, Phase 2 didn't make me. I made Syren, and I made who I was. You know what I mean? And so those people, and it was a huge amount of people, but those people specifically, even when I stop breaking, they still will, if somebody posts a video and it was at my event and they post it online, they'll tag me in the event. You know what I mean? We're like, no, Syren produced this. You know what I mean? So like that, helping me maintain my legacy and the things that I did in Chicago, because I threw hip hop, I threw some of the major b-boy events on my own. I didn't need 8 people like other people needed 8 people to do their thing. I did it by myself. And so I just want to give like a shout out to those people who really supported me, because it meant a lot.
And also too, that just reminded me, I didn't get a chance to ask this question early on, but how did you come up with the name Syren?
Oh yeah, because I was really into I told you a little bit of my nerdy side, but I was very much into like geology. And so like I love watching things around tornadoes and things like that. So I wanted it to align with some of the things that I was into.
Okay. So there he is. So we ready to roll
over here today. Huh? Like, we got a storm coming in, so I think it's got to be that.
Oh, okay. So give us a brief for the viewers that's tuned in. Give us a little brief summary of you, and how you got into the hip hop scene.
So growing up, before it was hip hop, I grew up before this was even called hip hop. Right. All the elements were alive, you know what I'm saying? But it wasn't even called hip hop yet. Like, I started like popping probably 1978. You know what I'm saying? I'm originally from New York, so I moved to New York from New York when I was 6, and then to Boston. So I moved when I was young, but I had no family in New York, so we ended up going back and forth all the time. So,
Yeah. He's actually in Hawaii, correct?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, and with the storm coming, that could definitely cause connection issues.
Yeah, well, when he hops back on, but I wanted Lino to come on because he was been such an amazing mentor over the course of, for all of us, he's been an amazing mentor. So I wanted him to come on to share a little bit of his story, as well as, what I think is really important as it relates to my story is that, seeing Lino and hearing, his inspiration across the years was really important to keep and stay motivated, because a lot of the legacy B-boys weren't necessarily, as supportive as I saw Lino to a lot of us. So
okay, all right. So we good now, Lino?
Man, I don't know, man. I feel so embarrassed right now. I feel like I'm on, but I know we have a storm coming in, so I never have this problem. I'm on Zoom all the time.
Yeah. Okay.
I really have this problem, so I don't know what's going on. But
oh yeah, it's going in and out. Well, could you, I don't want to just have dead time. Is there anything that you can incorporate from? I don't. Let's see here. Yeah, because the connection is not there with him on, and it's taking out the video as well.
Okay, so we'll
So,
wait till he can get in, but in the meantime, we can continue.
yeah. So okay, so you was mentioning a specific event
Yeah,
that I think you were saying that you all met at. Was that actually?
Pro-Am. Yeah, it was
Oh,
Pro-Am, and then like we were going back and forth. Like we were
okay.
like wasn't sure if there was a historic jam in the Bronx that took place that was like, I don't even remember the name of the jam, but I remember what happened at the jam. And so yeah, he was there, and he was so in between those two.
Okay.
But he's you know, when we talk about, I think, you know, if you're talking to someone about phase 2 in that era,
Mhm.
it was inclusive of like Skill Methods, Incredible Breakers, Full Circle, Floor Lords. You know, those are like Boogie Brats. Like it was a very tight connection between all of us at that time. I mean, like very tight, like in the sense of, you know, people would stay at my crib when they came to Chicago or wherever it was. Like it was just almost like one and the same of a sense.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I actually was just watching a segment on YouTube that I stumbled across yesterday, and a channel on YouTube, and they were interviewing Kid Freeze from the Dynamic Rockers.
Mm.
And he actually mentioned Lino in his conversation, you know, and I thought that was really cool. I was just like, wow, you know, and then I was like, man, you know, and so now it just makes sense because he's originally from New York, but obviously since he goes back, you know, he had crossed paths with, because Dynamic Rockers, they go back just as good as Rocksteady and New York City Breakers, but they don't get a lot of recognition. You know what I'm saying? And so it was good to just see them do a whole, like, it was like a 2-hour interview on him. And he even talked about that it was another guy named Kid Freeze that he had to battle in order to get the name.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love all those history stories.
Yeah. So much.
I mean, it's just such a, you know, right now is such a different time. But I'm just so grateful for the experience that I had. It's like a very unique, you know, not at the time I was just doing me, right? Like, but now, like, when you look back, it's like, wow, you know, and especially like someone like you who was, you know, you never know who's watching, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You're like being basically being, I don't even know if you knew you were going to be a historian, but you are at this,
Right.
you know, you were probably just there enjoying the experience. And the next thing you know, you have all this archive.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. It's, you know, and then I also come to realize that it was important to start doing it, because at one time we just didn't feel that it was important. But then it was just kind of like, when every year that goes by, if you don't have something to look back at, you realize that wait a minute, maybe I should, instead of waiting for somebody else to do it, maybe I should take the initiative.
Well, you did. You did. Yeah, no, I mean, I've heard like, you know, Scribble Jam is coming out with their kind of like back footage, and I can't wait to see that, because I don't know if how many people know how instrumental that was to some, you know, Eminem. Like a lot of these Juice, like a lot of these, you know, a lot of the B-boys in the Midwest and in New York and whatever, you go out to Scribble Jam. So it was like, you know, that's going to be, I'm sure their footage must be crazy.
Yeah. I remember going to that for the first time. Actually, I think it was in '96 when I first went to the Scribble Jam, and they were still fairly new.
Yeah.
And you know, and you know, that's where Juice and Eminem battle before Eminem became the Eminem that the world knows.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you know, it was such a great time. And, you know, we always liked to go wherever hip hop was. So even when it was local, you know, it was still, you know, a good space to be in.
Yeah.
So we seem like we're still having some issues with connection.
Okay.
Yeah. So is there anything that you would like to include at this point in regard to him? Because I don't know if we're going to be able to, it's going in and out with him back there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you know, for me, like, you know, he was a part of the origins of the culture. And, you know, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have him here to kind of talk about, like, for me as a person, foundation is a big deal. And so I think in order to have a really good conversation with me, it's like having the foundations of what, who was a part of my foundations. And then he has deeper foundations in the culture. So it's kind of like this connectivity. And in order to have like this very rich conversation, I wanted to add him in. And he's, I think I had spoke to earlier, a lot of people really, when they think about old school B-boys, they think about Crazy Legs. Like he's the first person that comes up, almost the only person that comes up. He did a really great job branding himself and, I don't even think he intentionally branded himself. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't, but he became so synonymous with breaking that, like, if he's not involved, it's almost like not relevant, right? It's not valid. And so, but then you have somebody like Lino, who's been there were other B-boys, obviously a part of the culture at the time. And I wanted to make sure that, Lino has just been such an incredible historian and teacher and mentor and just an overall fan. I wanted to make sure he's a part of my story, and to kind of tell my story is to have him involved as well.
Okay. All right. Looks like we got a better connection now.
Yeah.
I'm on my phone.
Okay.
On my phone. This. I had to go through all kind of madness. I'm sure we got a big storm, like a hurricane coming in. So I'm sure that's what it is.
Okay. All right. Well, fire away. Tell us, a little bit, about you, and then we're going to kind of get into some of the hotter topics, in regards to the Olympics and what can we do moving forward today in 2024.
Well, I'll tell you what, man. I think, and I've been having a lot of conversations with a lot of B-boys and newer generation, older generation, and we've been talking about, I think our main issue with the Olympics was we wasn't in control of it. We have enough promoters in America here that could have probably handled a lot of the different, and we also connected with the B-boy and B-girl community worldwide. You know what I'm saying? So it's not like we don't support each other, we don't do things. But I think by letting another organization, and I'm not going to even call out no names, actually handle our business, was one of the biggest things that happened with the Olympics. So I think us creating our own federation, B-boy, B-girl federation, will kind of help, and we got to start now because, we can't let other people handle our destiny. You know what I'm saying? Like, especially another form of dance that really has nothing to do with hip hop or with our culture, handle our destiny. And I think that's where it kind of comes in, for us to really take control of our own community, our own culture. Like, we got to really start taking control,
I think
go on.
I was going to say, I think the point that Syren made earlier about her trying to help with someone else's event and didn't really get the love that she should have got. And then that prompted her to kind of, jump right into doing her own events. But then that also helped ignite proactiveness, because in hip hop, you got to be proactive. So, and I agree with you 100%. It's, when we talk about hip hop, we don't have a lot of ownership in it. We have, creative, works involved in helping build it, but ownership is a whole nother conversation. And so what do you all think that could be some leading steps to get to that part of ownership?
I mean, it's really, I think America, a lot of the promoters, a lot of the dancers, to really get together, support, a federation, you know what I'm saying? So we can control our own community and really take it serious, and really try to look into how do we get more support from the government, from more corporations, foundations, private and government foundations. I think we need to look into certain things because it also, for America, like, it also kind of like for us here, like, I made some phone calls like right before, because there was a lot of complaining, and I called a lot of dancers and I was like, hey, we need to start getting on this now. We need to start organizing. And people were like, yeah. Then I'll call them back and they would be like, oh, that's too hard. You know what I'm saying? But the thing about it is, like, with this, with what just happened with the Olympics, and I didn't really see too much that was bad. You know what I'm saying? But it was kind of bad. You know, I got a lot of complaints from people who don't even dance no more. People who do dance. You know what I'm saying? And felt it should have been a certain way. Like there could have been a lot of things that could have been different. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I know with mostly all the promoters around the world, if we all would have got together and really had our own vision, you know what I'm saying? And we would have done everything better. You know what I'm saying? If we would have had the funding and everything to do it right, you know. So I think, you know, all we could really do is hope that we really come together this time and really put something together that will help this community, because you know, we also need, you know, people to understand that by us becoming more professional, us having a federation, you know, we could also ask for more. We could also have rules. We could also have, you know, things where, you know, we're not getting jerked around by a lot of these companies. We're actually looking professional. You know, we having people who are representing us for us to get those jobs, having, you know, us get those endorsements that we need, you know, those partnerships. And I think that's what's needed right now. You know, it's for us to really take this serious. And I mean, I've been doing this all my life, you know what I'm saying? And not for the money, just because I love it. And I want people to look at me and be like, you know what? He's still doing it. He's still involved. I could do this. I know I could do this. And I could do it better than he can. And that's what I want. Like, I'm not trying to be the best. I'm trying to show the younger generation that you guys can do it. And everybody who I ever taught, I've always told them, like, look, I'm teaching you this, but I want you to be better than me. I want you to do more than me. You know what I'm saying? And that's what this is about. It's about the next generation. Like, the older generation, we're here. You know what I'm saying? I support the older generation, but it's not about us. It's about the newer generation. You know.
So my next question to Syren is, you mentioned off the record, you were talking about we need to get into investments, right? In terms of making change. How do you think we could go about that? Because another thing is, I feel like another element of hip hop is entrepreneurship.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people in hip hop don't recognize the importance to entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
So from you having experience, Syren, in the corporate world,
Mm-hmm.
how do you think? And I feel you. I feel you, because I had the same experience. You know what I'm saying? Where, you know, as a b-boy, again, you know, it was a lot of hardships coming around people that wasn't hip hop, and you know, you just didn't want to even share that information around people that you know wasn't going to really accept it. And
Right.
so, what do you think we could do in terms of taking steps to kind of get to that level of where we can kind of seek out more help and funding?
Yeah. I think, you know, that's a great question. I think that's a fantastic question. There are a couple of things. I think, you know, you're strategic in business, but you let the culture thrive, right? And so, like, there needs to be that strategic business, but you don't choose. Like, I honestly, in my personal opinion, and I'm gonna say this, and you know, I won't say any names, but to me, it looked like there were some strategic choices that were put on the stage for the Olympics, right? They weren't necessarily cultural people that are in the culture or whatever, who have a real love for the culture. Some of that was some of the people that I could see felt a little strategic from an outsider point of view, because I consider myself a little bit of an outsider, but I'm connected because some of those people that they were learning from trained at my house, right?
Right.
Live with me, right? So, so I know, like, you know, the culture from a different perspective, but I'm also an outsider at the same time, because I can have a different perspective now because I'm not so close to the heart of it, right? But one of the things that I do think is that, you know, you do business in strategic ways, but allow the culture to thrive. And what I mean by that is, when you look at like 671, when she came out on that stage, old girl looked like she was about to rip everybody apart. She didn't care about her. You know what I'm saying? She didn't care about what she was like, yo, I'm here to do what I do, right? And
right.
And so I think that, you know, when it comes to the business, but when you are approaching the business side of this, you know, I mean, I look at the people who, you know, respectfully are, you know, doing some of the business side, like, it is absence of people of color. It is, you know, even on the b-boy side, there's the people that are on the strategic side are not necessarily people of color. And I do think that the culture you have to represent the culture, just like in corporate America, they had to reshape how they're doing business, and it's performed, well because of that. I think, you know, that's a part of it. You have to have people who are, and I do think it has to be also like a flexible in age and gender and everything. Like we have to have the old school guys, we have to have the new, and you have to have the middle, because we all are adding in pieces that are necessary to hold it in a different sense. Also, I think that there's, you know, when I was doing B-boy events, the culture was sort of unfriendly to spectators, right? It was not, I think it was more of a protective thing why I wasn't, but at the same time, in order for this to thrive in the way that it needs to, we have to allow people to understand the dance, because people don't, if you don't understand the dance, you'll make bad choices, right? Or you don't, or you'll hate on the dance, right? Because people hate on things that they don't understand.
Yes.
So there needs to be some sort of way of to educate on what's a great, because I remember when I first, everybody that did a windmill, I was like, oh my gosh, they're amazing. And like, they were like, nah, like my crew were like, nah, they just okay. And I'm like, no, did you see the windmill? You know, it was like, you know, the more I got educated on the dance, I was able to decipher who was good and who wasn't, you know what I mean? But before I was like, I didn't care. They did a head spin and I was like, oh my gosh, it's the world, you know? So I think there's the need of that education point, but then also, the last part of it, what I was going to say is, and I lost my train of thought there, but, you know, I think building this business is understanding that the part of it is the business, and then and we have to leave the culture and let it thrive. Oh, that's what I meant. So I went to this event called Sumo and Sushi. Now, Sumo and Sushi educates people about sumo wrestling. And when I almost didn't go, right? It was, first of all, the price tag was like $400 for VIP. Wow. And then it was like $80 for the front row, for just basic tickets, right? But what they did, they had like sumo wrestlers that come over, and they come over to America for a very short time. They only do it on their off hours, because their lifestyle, they went and they talked about their lifestyle, sumo wrestlers. So, you know, I went through like all their training and what they have to do, and kind of like how it changes their life. And, you know, then they showed us and they talked to us about moves. Like it was like this whole show, and they're in a ring and the lighting, and it's like they put on this whole like experience. But when I walked away, I was like, you know what, now I can look at this sumo wrestling and actually have an understanding of what the basics are, right? So like now I might be able to determine who's dope and who's not, just because I went to this event. But it was spectator focused. It's about building this fandom around what we're doing. And so I think there needs to be this building of fandom around the culture. Like, so allowing, you know, if you're going to do a jam, maybe having spectator tickets, and then also having participant tickets, creating that experience for spectators, right? So when you go into a basketball jam, you know, basketball game, there's the spectator experience, right? And then you're going to have the player experience. And so I think there needs to be that somewhat of this building of fandom, because I think what we saw from the Olympics, that there's a lot of people that actually would probably want to be a part of this experience. And we just need to create this from a promoter's perspective. If I was going to jump back into it, I would think about doing it from that. And then on the ownership part, my last thing, and then I'll shut up, is I think, you know, and Lino and I know a mutual person who's doing, you know, trying to work on some things in the community, but you know, Steve Stout is a really great example of independent. So if people don't know Steve Stout, he's a huge business mogul in the music business.
Record exec. Yeah.
Yes, record executive, doing his thing. But his whole thing is United Masters. And United Masters is about artists being independent and owning their masters. Okay. So like, if that sort of model can be placed into the B-boy community, I think it could be really amazing. But anyway, I'll shut up from there.
Yeah, you know, I think that's a really, really good point, because let me just flip over to the element of rap real quickly, because I remember there used to be a time when rappers, you know, especially those that kind of even claim to be an MC, because they talked about how there's a difference between a rapper versus an MC. And so, you know, but when people sign to a label, there's stipulations that you can or cannot follow, right? And you know, and if you're in violation of that, you know, it can cost you. And so, and in most artists, you know, in the early beginning, they just want to be able to be seen and heard and make a little money at the same time, right? So they really can care less, or may not have been able to even pay attention to the fine print in the contract. And then later on, they find out that, oh man, you know, I got, you know what I'm saying? I'm making the label all this money, but I'm only getting this much of it. So I think, as artists, just in general, being cognizant of, when it comes to paperwork, because we focus so much on the craft that when paperwork comes into our face, we're like, what is this?
That's for trusted advisors. I mean, we shouldn't think that we can do everything, right? It's like kind of like I'm being every woman. I'm not every woman. Like, no, I have a cleaning person that comes and clean my house up. When I'm like, I'm not trying to be every woman. Okay, I'm trying to be like Alyssa at one time.
Yeah.
So it's like about getting the lawyers and getting those people that have and helping out, you know what I mean? Like, when I'm because I've worked on a lot of influencer deals, like I do have, I help, the people that I know when they have a deal coming across and make sure that they're getting what they need to be, what they should be getting, and so I think that's really important. But as far as the evolution of the dance, I agree with Lino. The federation's a great idea. I think working on those type of things is amazing.
Yeah, I think we with having a federation, we like me and London, who's from the New York City Breakers, we were talking about this the other day.
London, shout out to my man London.
Yes, London, huge supporter.
It's about everyone doing their part, what they're good at. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know I'm probably good at, like, maybe mentoring or advising. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know that I'm good at doing that. I know I'm good at making connections, communicating with the younger and the older generation. Like, I know that's my we need people that could do everything, that are really going to go in and really going to do that job. You know what I'm saying? That they're going to really put their passion, their heart into doing their job. And it can't be for them. It's got to be for the community, for the culture. You know what I'm saying? That's what it's really got to be about. It can't be about, you know what I'm saying? Because a lot of people come into this and they have different agendas. I've never had a different agenda. It's never been about me. It's always been about everyone else. And a lot of times, like, I get people that think it's about me, and I'm like, no, man. Like, I've never made anything happen without creating or helping other people, and other people helping me. We all help each other.
Right.
When I need help, I call her. I'm like, hey, can you please help me? You know what I'm saying? Because I know she knows what she's doing. I can't just, think I could do everything. I make phone calls every day, and I ask for help every day. Should I ask for more help? Yes. A lot of times when you ask B-boys for help, you know what I'm saying? Sometimes they don't want to help. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
and it can't be, and I'm going to blame us because, I know a lot of us came up in a real, tough era. Like, I came up in an era where, hip hop for me wasn't as simple as it is these days. I came up in an era where, and I'm sure Chicago's just as, I'm sure you came up in the same era too.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? I grew up in a community where it was bullets flying every day, people getting stabbed every day. I was lucky enough to be able to step away from my neighborhood, go dance in downtown Boston and make my money, come home at nighttime or after 6, be able to creep in the house, you know what I'm saying, and creep out, maybe go to a party or something, or go to a jam where I could go dance, But it wasn't that easy for me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And a lot of us has been like that. A lot of us, older generation also got caught up in drugs, got caught up in relationships, got caught up into going to jail, even passed away. So the thing about it is, like, a lot of the older generation, who are coming back now, a lot of them feel like they're owed something. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, no, you're not owed anything. We pay you respect, but now we got to figure out, if you owe something, if you want something, do something. You know what I'm saying? Figure out what you could do to help out. Figure out how you can help the community out and be a part of something that you could help create.
I would just, and I didn't mean to cut you off, but I was just telling Syren that I just stumbled across a video yesterday on a channel that I wasn't familiar with that talks about hip hop history, oral history actually, and they had a 2-hour interview with brother Kid Freeze from the Dynamic Rockers, and he actually shouted you out in the interview, And I was just like, oh wow, and he was showing love to a lot of people, and it just made me think that you know, some of us omit information on purpose, but then some of us share information because we want to be, inclusive, with the culture overall. So, we'll give a shout out whether that crew is not our crew, or that guy is from another whole nother city or whatever. He was just showing a lot of love. And when he mentioned your name, I was like, wow, he didn't, not everybody does that. They gonna
No,
talk about.
that's my brother, man. He, actually my best friend who passed away, Flo, was
Yeah.
one he was inspired by Kid Freeze. He was inspired by Chino, Brian, um, damn, I can't even think, man. He was inspired by a lot of amazing dancers, man.
Yeah.
Fast Break was another one of the dancers who he was inspired by. And I got to, go meet a lot of these guys early, like me and Flo were like brothers in the 80s. I met Flo in 83 and we would go to New York. I would spend like 2 months in New York. He would come to Boston, spend 2 months. In like 86, he ended up moving to Boston because that's when like breaking like died out in New York. It was like totally dead. Wasn't
Right.
nobody really doing nothing. And we were the only crew that was doing something. You know what I'm saying? So he was like, y'all, I got to move with y'all. Y'all the only one performing. Y'all the only one doing things. So he came to Boston to live with us. You know what I'm saying? But Kid Freeze, I met Kid Freeze when I was a young kid. You know what I'm saying? And Kid Freeze is like one of the inventors of a lot of, different moves. You know what I'm saying? A lot of spin moves.
Yeah.
So for me, you know what I'm saying, growing up around him and seeing him, you know what I'm saying, like, and I'll tell you the truth, like that's one of the most talented people I know.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? Like that man, I don't even know, man. There's been a lot of mistakes he's made in his life, but he has so much talent. He's so gifted. You know what I'm saying? I hope one day he really gets to shine with the gift he has, because not only in dancing, but just being a producer of all different types, music, clothing. This man has ideas.
Yeah.
I'm talking about since like the late 80s. He had these ideas that I was like, oh my God, like this guy could be a, next mogul. Like he could have been the next mogul in hip hop.
Wow.
And like I said before, like, a lot of us went through a lot of certain things back in the days. You know what I'm saying? And there's a lot of us, man, there's a lot of mental health in this community.
That
What I'm
part.
saying?
PTSD, for sure.
Like there's a lot of people that need help, man.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people need help, man, and they don't know how to get that help, or they don't want to get that help. You know what I'm saying? But there's a lot of people that could be doing a lot more, could be doing a lot better if they would go get help.
Okay. Well, let me ask you all this: is there a starting point if you had to kind of pinpoint a time on, just say, in space? If you had to kind of pinpoint a period of or space, specifically with a person or a group of people that we can start with working on, like, okay, how can we, should we have consultation? Like where can we go to kind of start the conversation to go where we're trying to go to? Because again, federation, I mean, that's something that we've talked about over periods of time, just talking about, collaborations and forming a union and all of this stuff. But it's just a conversation that kind of comes and goes, and nothing really sticks.
So I'm gonna do it real quick. I'm gonna throw mine real quick because I probably just, and then I'll let y'all seasoned vets in here, but from a new kind of in between. I'll say I'm like the in between generation, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm listening.
Me too.
Oh yes, and I also want to give a shout out really quick to Rico because he's on, he was watching, and then also Omega as well. But outside of that, one of the things, I mean, from a pillars standpoint, because in marketing we do pillars, in business we do pillars, right? So I host a teen event. My pillars are technology, creativity, and business. So like if we were going to do pillars in this world, I think it's building the fandom. This is very, very we cannot have an ecosystem without a fandom. It is just not going to happen. Okay. When we're talking about building these federations, I think that is key, and kind of like understanding like the dynamics of a federation and what they're going to do is also a part of that. And then 3, I think when you're talking about the investments, right? So understanding how are other organizations or companies leveraging the talents that they're doing, whether it's skateboarding or whatever, how are they, pitching, what are they doing? And then, and not necessarily copying what they're doing, but understanding what they're doing so you can add in the best of what they're doing to what we are doing, because there are patterns of behavior, there are patterns that work. I don't care, like you can put them wherever you're going to put it, the patterns of something works. And so it's understanding the patterns and putting the right people in those slots, like we talked about earlier. Like I might be really good doing negotiating, right? Like I'm Harvard certified for negotiation, right? So that might be something that comes in that I could do, you know what I'm saying, or whoever. But understanding that everybody has their own skills and allowing them to thrive in their lanes. Okay, so those are the 3 things that I think.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. You said that, you took everything out of my mouth. You know what I'm saying? So, like, I feel the same way. It's like, everyone has to do what they're good at doing, and we do have to educate ourselves in creating a federation, but, it's just like Rico, Rico knows, we're all connected with the same people, the top, promoters from here, everyone who's doing everything, but it's really about us understanding that, like now, are we going to just keep sitting around and letting people take over our culture? Or we're going to take over it ourselves and smarten up and start doing what we need to be doing.
Right.
Because the truth is, if we're going to sit out, we're going to talk about this, like me and London been talking, and he's been talking to other people. I've been talking to a couple of younger generation people. I'm not going to get into their names, but I've been talking to younger guys, and we've been talking, like I said before, I had a conversation with a few people like before the Olympics and said, we need to start getting on this now. And they were like, oh yeah. And then they disappeared. You know what I'm saying? Like they don't want to put in the hard work. You know what I'm saying? I remember earlier, before this started, they were blaming the OGs about that they didn't get this done. You know what I'm saying? They should have got this done. And it is our fault. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to say, look, I'm not going to take responsibility. I'm going to take responsibility. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to take responsibility because
I'm going to say no, it's not your fault.
I think a lot of us, if we would have educated ourselves, you know what I'm saying? And we would have jumped on it, we could have done it. But like I said, my passion is different. You know what I'm saying? My passion is talking to different people, younger generation, older generation, mentoring kids, teaching kids. Like that's what I'm good at. You know what I'm saying? That's what I've been good at. There's other people in the community that have that talent that could have done that. You know what I'm saying? And I could have been one of those persons that say, hey man, we need to do this now. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying I'm going to take full responsibility, but it was our responsibility, but we can't talk about what it was or the past. We got to talk about the future now.
I think that's a really good point though, because there's been times, on many occasions, even with history, in terms of crews, the old school versus the new school, and yet there is a gap in between those generations of people because some of the old school is not sharing the knowledge with the new school, and the new school feel like the old school is too old. So there's not like a parent / child relationship, so to speak, to where we can kind of bridge the gap. And I think that's, to me, that was kind of like a number one factor. Like we definitely ain't gonna be able to do no work if we first can't be able to get along as a people. Whether you, just because you 25 years older than me, we should be able to. We're in the same scene, but yet y'all don't want to share what y'all need to share with us, and we feel like y'all are old and outdated. So go ahead on and sit down somewhere.
Mhm.
You know what I'm
Well,
saying?
No, and
for me,
the reason why I say that it wasn't your fault, your generation's fault, Lino, because like I mean me taking myself out of just like this cultural perspective, but also taking it into the social economics of America at this point. Affirmative action wasn't until 1965, and so we're talking about Black and brown people being able to work and create funds and be able to go to school and not get canceled just because of the race. Okay, so and the breaking started in the early 70s. You're talking about a very small window where there was opportunities for people to go and educate themselves and go to Harvard and go to all these schools to get out. So so when we're talking about like kind of the lineage of how this dance, when it comes outside of sort of the money making part, the economics and the economics of it, we have to also take in consideration where we have come as a whole people, right, in society, and what has been gained access to us now. And that's why I say that it's so important that all the generations interact with each other at this pivotal point, because we do have people that are financially well off in the community. There are people that are financially well off that can do some things, that have the knowledge. Now you have some of the younger generations, like one of the girls, like I think what her name is, Sunny. She's a heart. I mean, if she's really about the community, she went to Wharton. She's went to Ivy Business School. So if she went there for business, so why don't you lean in on her and like some of those business type of thing? I'm just using her as an example, right? But what I'm saying is we're at a pivotal point where you have multiple people that have a set of knowledge. The culture is more palatable to it. Now we have this, like, all the stars to me are lining up in a way that could create a really strong opportunity to fulfill the vision that you're speaking of, Lino.
I don't know who's on here, but someone's sending me texts like, "Good job, good interview." what I was saying is what I wanted to talk about was that, you know what I'm saying? Like, for me, that was the biggest lesson I got, was really listening to the younger generation as the OG. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm really connected with a lot of the younger generation, because at a time, where I was kind of like losing, I guess I was kind of like losing, aspiration, like not wanting to, you know what I'm saying? Like not wanting to put in the hard work, wanting to sit back and kind of just dance for fun. You know what I'm saying? A lot of the younger dancers, pushed me, helped me get better, helped me, inspired me to get better. And then, my son and my nephew, they were a big, part in helping me understand the younger generation and connect with the younger generation. And then that's where I really started building with the younger generation. And that's what I've been doing, like I'm the one who kept the group going for like 35 years straight. You know what I'm saying? Like my actually 38 years straight. My nephew took over the group 10 years ago. So the group is now 43 years. We've been together 43 years.
And I think that's important, because to me, that really carries weight. Now that's for your crew, but let's step back to Syren, because like now I don't know what happened between you and your relationship with Phase 2, but I know for me, outside, I was never a member of Phase 2, but on the outside looking in, when I seen you with those guys, that was inspiring to me. Just from a perspective of seeing Phase 2 been around since '82, and to see that crew continue to grow and develop, and then now you have a woman a part of the crew that is coming, and you came in with your contributions. You know what I'm saying? That were valid. You know what I'm saying? And to me, and so it's like anytime I see anybody, no matter what race they are or what gender they are, but when they come into a fold of something that is kind of exclusive, like hip hop, and they put their contributions, they in other words, they add to what's being already done. It just shows that we have the power, we have the numbers, we can pretty much do anything that we would like, but it does take strategic planning. I was a big fan of the New York City Breakers. I like Rocksteady, but I love the New York City Breakers better. But and predominantly the New York City Breakers was a Latino crew, but they had black b-boys in the crew as well. And yet they took breaking internationally back in the 80s. And that was almost unheard of because, again, like you say, people didn't really take the dance serious. You know what I'm saying? And yet these cats, I remember I joined their fan club in like 83 and they were sending me stuff in the mail. And that was, in my mind, I was still a youngster, and that was business. I was like, wait a minute, I'm getting mail from the New York City Breakers to my crib, right?
Wow.
You know, and they had an order form in there and everything. You could pick, hey, you want to order some fat laces, you want to get a poster, you want to get, and yet it had a business model to it. And so I was like, wow. I said, okay, so this is the real deal. Like, it's not, people used to make jokes, oh, you're a break dancer, you're gonna break your neck doing that stuff, if you keep doing it. But yet, it's just like any other thing that you like to do. Basketball, football, baseball, you can hurt yourself in any one of those too. But people have made professional careers out of it. You know what I'm saying? So I just think, I feel like we should take our experiences, because even like I said with you, Syren, like the experience of what you have been through to get to where you're at now, and you're still adding to it. And the same with you, my brother, it's kind of like, these are experiences that you can't pay for, these type of, unless you live it. I tell people, you have to live through the experience in order to now talk about it. You know what I'm saying?
No, for sure, man. Like I'm working on a bunch of different things, and Syren is like my sister. Like I call Syren anytime. Me and my nephew, we call Syren. Like that's, like, we're not afraid to ask for help. We're not afraid to do certain things like that we know is gonna help us. And she's always there to help out.
That's
As
good.
far as like things, like there's always a lot of different things that happen in groups. You know what I'm saying? Like my group, a lot of the members are starting to come back now. A lot of Floor Lord members are starting to come back now. There's members who left like 3 years, like they're coming back after 40 years.
Right.
What I'm saying?
Right.
To come try to help and try to build, because they miss it. They see it happening. There's dancers that are coming back now after 38 years, 20 something years, people are coming back. So the truth is like that's something about being a part of a crew. There's always something that happens, or you just fall out of love with dancing, or you just want to move on and do something else. The crew, like phase 2 at a time wasn't, they fell off a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Wicked got sick, Wicked was the rock of the crew. You know what I'm saying? Wicked was the rock of the crew. He got sick at a time where the crew didn't even know what to do.
Which way to go?
You know what I'm saying? And I would go, me and my son and my nephew would go out there and kind of push them and kind of, I would call Wicked all the time. We would make him laugh. Like our whole thing was like, that's our brother right there. Like we got to support them too. You know what I'm saying? So our connection with them. But, a lot of times things happen. People fall out of relationships. People walk away. Our crew, there's over like 75 to 100 members in our crew.
Oh, wow.
You know what I'm saying? We've been together 43 years. Most of those dancers were people that I kind of like put in the crew, and a lot of times you have fallen outs. Like there's not everyone is going to be a part of the crew forever.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But the thing is how do you keep that relationship going and mend that relationship and keep that brotherhood, sisterhood together and keep that family in your heart, you know what I'm saying? And move on past the past and move on to the future,
Well, I think Syren, you mentioned to me about, a project in the future that you would like to do in regard to showing footage from your event.
Yeah. So Release 2000, like the flyer that you put up earlier.
Yes.
We never actually released any of that footage. And so in 2 weeks, actually, I'm going to do an event. So I'm going to send out the invite soon. It'll be a private event for, special invites to see the footage, so it will be a great experience for those who are able to attend. But yeah, that's what I kind of going into a little bit of, I think you mentioned something about the things that were difficult you know, in my journey. And I would say, you know, definitely that time of leaving phase 2 was definitely it was a personal decision. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't like I got kicked out or anything like that. No, I left for very personal reasons. And so, but there was a legacy that there were a lot of people that came at me, you know, because people felt like, you know, there's a loyalty that's in the scene that like, oh, you know, you're hanging out with a different crew or you're whatever. And people were very nasty to me. I mean, they made things, you know, slander. There were a lot of things that happened that, and most of the stuff wasn't none of anybody's business, to be completely honest. You know what I mean? It was, you know, and so I think, you know, especially I am a woman. I am very sensitive, you know, on the inside, like, and so it was very tough emotionally for me to get through a lot of that stuff. And I pushed through anyway. I mean, most of the events that were historic and still floating around the internet were post me out of phase 2, right? Like I had been out of phase 2. I did, you know, those videos are still being posted on some of Stance Elements and all of these other, you know, platforms. So, you know, I established who I was, but, you know, it was a tough time. And so I remember that, like, you know what I mean? Like even though, you know, there's forgiveness and whatever, but I'm always like, well, you know, my analogy is like, if you back into somebody and you, with your car and, you know, you break their bones and they take time to heal and you might see them walking around, right? But it doesn't mean that they don't have trouble getting out of bed in the morning, even though you might see them just walking around as happy as they can be because they're making the most of the situation, but they still probably have the scars and still they're, you know, things that are going on that you might not be able to see, you know? And so, you know, I always think about, when I think about my journey in this scene, particularly in Chicago, which to me, in my personal opinion, out of all the places I went, was the hardest when it came to, they were just hard. Like Chicago dudes just hard. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I mean? Like they just coming for you. And so because nobody made, you know, there were B-boys, I think, in the scene that made that room for me, which are the people that I mentioned, like J Boogie, Omega, Rico, you know, the TBA crew and Self-X and all those made that room for me. But there are a lot of people who told lies and who tried to do whatever they could to break me. And I still stood by myself without needing 8 people to do one event. Okay. So, you know, I just, you know, so I think it made me stronger and it made me wiser about humanity and what people are capable of for no reason at all, when it's none of their business, when they should probably spend more time investing in themselves. And then, you know, I just invested in myself. And so for me, it helped me grow in ways that are good and bad, right? So, because I think I got a little bit of a masculine edge in trying to protect myself all the time, that I lost a little femininity, and that over the years I had to gain it back, you know? And so now I learned how to put up borders, and I'm very protective of myself and very protective of the people. Like I select who I want to be around. Not everybody's coming in.
Oh yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well,
lessons from that.
And I think that's, you know, what you just, you know, unfolded to us is the overall or the overview of people collectively. Because again, you know, if we can't get along in a friendship, we definitely are not going to get along in a business relationship, you know, for the most part. Because I mean, you know, if we're not treating each other in humanity form, how are we going to treat each other when it comes to business?
Mm-hmm.
You know? And so I think there's a sense of morals, you know, and you know, and just fundamental guidelines that people need to be following. You know, the Bible says, "Do unto others as you would like them to do unto you." You know, so obviously you're not going to do wrong to somebody else if you don't want that wrong coming back to you.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So it's just not cool to treat people nasty or ugly.
Yeah, you know, and I mean, I tell that story because you asked about phase 2 and kind of like the separation. So I wanted to explain, you know, I'm not going to go into why we separated, but it was for personal reasons. But what that story, you know, the back of it is how people reacted to me leaving phase 2.
Oh yeah.
People who weren't even a part of the situation, you know, don't even know anything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They just did what they did. And so, you know, but I just, you know, I say that because it's you know, this was an interview about me, and I have held a lot of things very quiet over the years. I've been very like not vocal about things. But, you know, it was not the greatest experience in the world, but at the same time, like it helped me reach some of the greatest heights in my life. So I take the good of that and learn how to move forward from that. But so, you know, there's a lot of great lessons there.
Shout out to brother Brave Month checking in.
All right, great.
Hey, Monk, what up? I say, a lot of people have gotten older, so a lot of people have gotten smarter. You know, um, you know, me coming up, like, and I'm sure the same thing with you. You know what I'm saying? Coming up with hip hop, it wasn't an easy thing for us.
Mm-hmm.
It's real. Like people try to ask me about my past, and I'm sometimes I'm embarrassed to talk about my past.
Yeah.
Because I did a lot of things because I thought it was cool, because I thought it was hip hop. You know what I'm saying? Aggressive things. Like hip hop is an aggressive type of dance. And then when you add, substance abuse, when you add problems from the home, when you add, inspiration from friends, peer pressure, all these different things, it's no different than the streets. You know what I'm saying? So the thing is like a lot of us, these are things I learned. I'm so happy that I live in Hawaii because living here, you know, I was able to get help. You know what I'm saying? And that was the biggest thing in my life, was to sit somewhere and really like look at my life, look at certain things, how I came up, how and I was able to go get help. That was one of the big things. I went and got help. You know what I'm saying? At a period of my life, that was the best thing I ever did in my life, because I thought there were a lot of things that was fine, that was cool, that I thought was fine, till I actually spoke to someone. They said, no, even things I went through in my life that I didn't think was nothing. You know what I'm saying? Wasn't cool. You know what I'm saying? Wasn't good for my health, for my mental health. You know what I'm saying? So I think a lot of times, like, we don't mean to do certain things. We don't mean to act a certain way. But I think is just everything that we've been through, we don't know how to deal with. You know what I'm saying? And we act certain ways. And a lot of people are sick, man. That's just it. A lot of people are sick. A lot of people are not doing that great. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a lot of people who think they're fine, but they're really not fine. I thought I was fine because I didn't drink, I didn't smoke, I didn't swear, I didn't do certain things, and all I did was dance. But there were certain things that I did that weren't right. You know what I'm saying? Even growing up, my past is not the best past. I was battling people back in the days. Do you know, when I went somewhere, when I left my neighborhood to go to another neighborhood, how I felt? I had anxiety everywhere. Every event back in the 80s, I had anxiety because I didn't know what was going to happen. You know what I'm saying? Like, I had to, when we went to a block party, I traveled with my whole community, which was nothing but thugs, drug addicts, you know what I'm saying, and gang members. You know what I'm saying? Who just wanted to go to the party to go pick up a girl or go start fights. You know what I'm saying? And I had to walk into a community center with these wild dudes who I didn't know what was gonna happen. And if they see me walking with these dudes and they did something, people was gonna come at me, even though I wasn't there for that reason. I was there to dance.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like a lot of those things, and even growing up in my neighborhood, certain things that happened to me. You know what I'm saying? So all these things, we don't really know a lot of times what's going on in other people's homes, other people's neighborhoods, other people's houses. And Chicago is not a place, you know what I'm saying, that's easy either. Chicago's not an easy place.
No.
Like, Chicago's one of the wildest places.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I mean, you got to understand, like, there's a lot of people. New York's the same way. LA's the same way, all around. So you got to understand, like, there's a lot of people that grew up, and then there's a lot of kids that didn't grow up around that. Especially a lot of the new gen kids now, like, they don't know what none of this is about.
Nah.
You know what I'm saying? So they don't even know how to deal with any of it. And it's not even as bad as it used to be back in the days. You know what I'm saying? These kids are doing great. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of times, a lot of people say to me, like, yo, I wish this was like back in the days. And I'm like, hell no. I love it the way it is now. I don't want to do it. half these dancers would not be dancing right now. You know how many dancers I've seen come and go?
Yeah, yeah,
You know what I'm saying? Like from when I started,
Yeah.
and my
That-
whole dream was like, yo, I wanted everyone to dance. My passion was like, yo, let's take this to the next level. Let's live off dance. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? Me and Flo would be walking down the street passionate, like, yo, let's dance till we can't dance no more. Let's hope the next generation, let's hope we paid. We're living large off this. You know what I'm saying? And that never happened. But you
Yeah.
know, I'm the only thing that happened is I understand that I'm doing something that I love, that I'm a part of this community, and I want to keep inspiring the younger generation, but also getting inspired by the younger generation and learning from the younger generation how they do it. And that's who's up next is the younger generation. We're gonna always be here, but it's up to them because you know a lot of us we don't really have that much time, you know, on this earth. You know what I'm saying? So it's really, you know, my gift is connecting with them and sharing my energy with them, and the same thing, you know, them sharing their energy with me. That's what keeps me going.
Well,
You know?
what I would like to say, we're going to go ahead and conclude. But what I would like to say is, Syren, I'm gonna send you my direct phone number, and hopefully you can share yours, and my brother, you can, you know, hopefully get my information, and I can get yours too. And then I would like to build, to whatever level we can under the circumstances, right? Because we also curate a hip hop museum here in Chicago, and I would love for you both to come down, at when you all would be available to come visit it and contribute to it. You know what I'm saying? Bring any artifacts and any memorabilia to the museum, and let's just build, because I think that while we're still alive, there's still work yet to be done. And I think this was a great conversation piece tonight, but yet there's so many other things that still needs to be discussed and kind of like
for
worked
sure.
on, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Especially when it comes to doing events and larger scale projects, doing them with the right people too.
Correct.
Right.
Facts.
Yeah.
Facts.
So
Yeah, I wanted to also like kind of lean in a little bit to what Lino said before we close, if you don't mind.
Sure.
There was something that we talked about, I think, offline, which is self-worth and kind of like what this dance did for people, like on the inside, right? So, I think that the part of the reason why I was able to still thrive, even regardless of all the whatever BS that was happening, was because I had a real strong sense of self-worth. I knew that I could accomplish regardless of whatever was in front of me, because I had spent hours at practice. I had, understood, faced in battle. Like I understood like these fundamentals that I learned from just going and dance. Like I applied it to other areas of my life, and it helped to make me a strong person. I think that is what our community adds to the local community centers, to students, to that self-worth. And the fact, like, I think, one thing in the Olympics, the commentating, one of the things that they said that was okay for me was like, some of the things I was like, I'm confused, but this part that they said about not copying moves, right? So what does that mean actually? It's about not copying moves helps you dig down into yourself, right? And how many people, I mean, I work in corporate America, I work in other spaces, they don't know who they are. They're grown, 60, 70 years old. I remember I was talking to a girl, she was just a regular average, girl, and I was like, oh yeah, I used to break. And she was like, wow, I never felt that free before. I don't know how it feels to feel that free. And I was like, whoa. But you know what? That's a large amount of the public that has never had a chance to dig down into themselves to find their own originality and who they are. So that's what this culture adds, and that's what we can bring to the world and to the community and to people and to humanity, right? And so I think like, that's a powerful thing that we're bringing. And then the second, to close it off on when we're talking about like the capitalism part of it, or the, the growing of it, or people being able to do this as a living, I think that, the protectors of the culture, like when I was growing up in it, and I think they were super protective of it, like super, like almost hardcore protective of it, to the point, like I said, spectators were not really engaged. But I do think like, I think the pendulum is kind of, it needs to come back in the middle of that. Like to me, it's not okay that some of those, that it's like gymnasts and basically gymnasts that are on the Olympic floor, right? It's like, no, the culture part still needs to be held true. So like having a firm guidance around that is really important as well. And so like, I think that there's a balance. I think like in this culture now, the youth culture is very much about mental health and kind of like this emotional intelligence type of thing, but it's almost to the point where you can't even explain what's wrong and what's right without somebody getting emotional, and you have to be able to be in this dance to understand that you need a correction, right? And so like, so I think when in my generation, right, it was almost like you were told what to do and you kind of like went about that, and it was a different way, it was a different way of handling. But I think now it's almost too late. Like, it's too late. You know what I'm saying? You have to be able to tell people that you're wrong. You have to be able to accept it and know that you can, and know that you need to make a shift. And you have to be able to accept guidance. So anyway, those are my.
I want to just say this real quick, Syren. I believe that you're a great speaker. You know, like just sitting here listening to you, like the way you compose your ideas together, and just shows that the intelligence is there, which is another challenge for some of us in the dance community. We don't know how to verbalize what we want people to know about us. We can get out and rock the move, but when you get in front of a microphone and you're asked to explain yourself, we freeze, and so that's very encouraging. Very encouraging.
She's a very smart person.
Yeah.
I look up to her. She doesn't even know that, but I definitely look up to her. I do, man. She I tell you, I call her when I need some help. I'm not ashamed. Like, she's one of the people. She's one of my go-to. I have probably 4 people that I go to. She's one of the fourth person that
That's
I
wonderful.
go to, because I know, she knows how to speak, and she knows how to make me feel my worth. You know what I'm saying? She gives me that push that to make me believe my worth. You know what I'm saying?
That's what's up.
She's an important people. She's very important in this community.
And to me, that's what hip hop is all about. Like, if we don't have a heart and we're not compassionate about our fellow brothers and sisters, what are we really doing? Because at the end of the day, we can't enjoy this culture alone. This is a community effort.
And the thing about it, like that we do have to understand is that, like, man, there's money for everyone in this world. You know what I'm saying? And that's a lot of people, a lot of the dancers, a lot of the people that want to try to take control, gatekeepers, all these people think like, oh, I don't want to, connect this person with this person because there's not enough for me. Like, there's still a whole, just a community of people who just don't believe in sharing their community for us to become bigger and better. You know what I'm saying? I think that's one of the things that we need to kind of like realize is like, yo, the more we can help each other, the better this community is going to be. As everyone's eating, the better this community is going to be. You know what I'm saying? It's like a lot of people don't think like that. And that's one of the things that we need to really stop is like, we need to realize, like, there's a lot of opportunities if we all work together. If we all work against each other, nothing's going to happen.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I love that.
Well, my brother Linsky, thank you for taking the time out tonight to come on with us tonight. Appreciate you, man. Look forward to meeting you one day in person. And thank you, my sister Syren. It's always an honor to be able to.
Hold on 1 second. I think it's Chicago Tribes event this
yes,
weekend.
Actually tomorrow.
All right. I want to send a shout out to those
shout
brothers,
out.
man. Stay
shout
blessed,
out to
guys.
Chicago Tribe. Yes.
Chicago
Yeah,
Tribe.
no, I'm not going to do that. But anyway, this is my show. Sorry. They were the biggest haters, okay? I'm gonna just put it out there. Like, since I didn't talk about it. It was them, and I'm like, I'm not here for that.
I'm sorry.
It's about Syren. So my event's in 2 weeks. private invites. So anyway,
I'm sorry, I didn't know anything about
and so
that.
anyway, but no, I really appreciate everything that has happened, and I really thank you so much for being a historian. I don't know who sent you that text message and told you to shout it out, but not on my show. They need to go somewhere else. And
No, they didn't. I just remembered that. No one sent the shout out.
Oh, okay.
That just came from me. That came from me.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, no, but they were definitely a part of that made it a very difficult experience. So,
I'm sorry.
I'm really like, I'm really thankful to you, Darrell. Thank you for bringing us on, and thank you for documenting the history and being here, and just everything that you've done has been really special. And I'm honored to be here. So thank you so much.
Yes. Okay, well,
also honored to be here with you guys. Thank you guys so much, and I apologize. I didn't know. I had no clue.
But now y'all do.
Yeah, we
Now
know
I
now.
do. All
Right?
right.
They know.
All
They
right.
listen. This is they know what they did. You know what I'm saying?
I'm
I've had apologies,
just a piece
which is
of,
fine.
I'm
But
a
like I
piece of
said,
paper.
back to the car analogy, it doesn't necessarily apology doesn't necessarily make the pain feel any less. Okay.
Yeah.
They were one of the groups. Like these are all grown men, okay? Groups of people, a lot of people that did against one person. And so, this is the type of things that like I don't really mess with. Like I protect my space, but I also, if people want you to speak highly of them, they should have treated you highly. So, there was that did not happen. And so here we are. But I mean, I forgive everybody, but at the same, there's a border, and that border is there. So
do you have a promotional flyer for your event coming up, Syren?
No, it is a private event because it's not for everybody.
Okay, got you.
But the people who will have it, they'll have it, and they're going to have a great time.
Okay, all right.
Well, guys, listen, give them my number.
All right, we'll do for sure.
Let's connect and let's stay in contact because we've been making some phone calls. We're definitely trying to get some people involved.
Dope.
And I know, Alyssa, I know you'll be an amazing person to have involved, and I'm sure we can make some things happen. So let's make it happen. Let's stay in contact.
Great.
All right, y'all.
Stay blessed.
All right, peace.
All right, y'all. We'll be back once again next Friday with another fresh episode of Fresh Fridays. And until then, don't forget to rep your city. I'm Artistic, and we are out. Peace.